The wealthy insulted a nun at a wedding. But when she spoke 3 words, everyone was shocked. In the heart of the affluent city of San Miguel, where skyscrapers challenged the clouds and wealth flowed like rivers of gold, stood the Grand Cathedral of Santa Rosa. It was a sunny spring day, and the ringing of bells announced the most anticipated wedding of the year. The union of Alejandro Montero, heir to the Montero Hotel empire, and Valentina Fuentes, daughter of oil magnate Raul Fuentes. The cathedral was adorned with thousands of white roses and silk ribbons, creating a fairy tale atmosphere. Guests, dressed in their finest attire, arrived in luxurious cars and limousines, including powerful families, influential politicians, and famous celebrities. Amidst this display of wealth, a humble and simple figure moved discreetly among the church pews. Sister Maria de la Luz, a young nun just 28 years old, had been assigned to help with the final preparations for the ceremony. Her gray habit starkly contrasted with the designer dresses and tailored suits surrounding her. As Sister Maria carefully placed missals on each pew, she couldn't help but feel a pang of nostalgia. Just 5 years ago, she had been part of this world of luxury and privilege, but an unexpected twist of fate had led her to find her true calling in serving God and others. Suddenly, a murmur of excitement swept through the church as Alejandro Montero arrived, looking impeccable in his designer tuxedo. His arrogant demeanor and dazzling smile caught everyone's attention. Behind him, his mother, Sofia Montero, an elegant woman with a severe expression, watched everything with a critical eye. Sofia approached Sister Maria, who was arranging some flowers near the altar, and with a haughty voice, without even looking at her directly, she ordered, "You, nun, make sure everything is perfect. I don't want to see a single flower out of place, understood?" Sister Maria nodded humbly. "Of course, Mrs. Montero. I will do my best to make the ceremony beautiful." Sofia looked her up and down with disdain. "I hope so, and please stay away from the guests. We don't want your appearance to make them uncomfortable." Sofia's words were like a slap to Sister Maria, but she maintained her composure and continued with her tasks in silence, little knowing that this was just the beginning of a series of humiliations she would endure throughout the day. As the church filled up, the tension in the air was palpable. Valentina had not yet arrived, and murmurs of concern began to spread among the guests. Alejandro checked his watch impatiently every few minutes, while Sofia tried to maintain a facade of calm. Finally, after an hour's delay, the roar of a sports car engine announced the bride's arrival. Valentina Fuentes made a grand entrance, clad in a wedding dress that seemed straight out of a fairy tale. Her beauty was undeniable, but there was something in her eyes that revealed nervousness and doubt. The ceremony began with all the pomp and circumstance expected of such a grand event. The bishop, a personal friend of the Montero family, officiated the wedding with solemnity. However, just as he was about to declare Alejandro and Valentina husband and wife, a trembling voice rose from the back of the church. "Wait, I can't do it." All the guests turned in surprise to see Valentina with tears in her eyes, stepping back from the altar. "I'm sorry, Alejandro, but I can't marry you. I don't love you." A profound silence fell over the congregation. Alejandro, visibly furious, grabbed Valentina's arm. "What are you saying? You can't do this to me." Sister Maria, who had been watching the scene from a corner, felt compelled to intervene. She approached the altar discreetly and said in a soft but firm voice, "Please, Mr. Montero, let go of Miss Fuentes. She has the right to express her feelings." Sofia Montero, who had been paralyzed with shock until that moment, turned to Sister Maria with fury in her eyes. "How dare you interfere? This is none of your business, meddling nun." The situation escalated quickly, with guests starting to murmur, some siding with Valentina, others outraged by the scandal. Amidst the chaos, Raul Fuentes, Valentina's father, approached the altar to defend his daughter. "Alejandro, release my daughter right now," demanded Raul authoritatively. Alejandro, still furious but aware of the consequences of his actions, released Valentina. The bride, sobbing, ran into her father's arms. Sofia, determined to save face, addressed the guests with a forced smile. "Dear friends, it seems there has been a little misunderstanding. We apologize for this inconvenience. Please join us at the reception while we resolve this issue." As the guests left the church amidst whispers and speculations, Sister Maria approached Valentina to offer her comfort. However, before she could reach her, Sophia intercepted her. "You," hissed Sophia venomously, "you're the reason for this. Your interference ruined my son's wedding. See to it that you never set foot in this church again." Sister Maria, hurt by the unjust accusations but determined to maintain her dignity, responded calmly, "Mrs. Montero, my only intention was to help. As a servant of God, it's my duty to protect those in need." Sophia laughed derisively. "Servant of God? Don't make me laugh. You're just a nobody hiding behind a habit. What do you know of the real world, of the responsibilities of high society?" It was then that Sister Maria felt something inside her break. Years of secrets and self-imposed silence weighed heavily on her. With a trembling but resolute voice, she uttered 3 words that would change the course of events: Gabriela Emilia Velasquez. Sophia paled at hearing that name. "What did you say?" "Gabriela Emilia Velasquez," Sister Maria repeated with more firmness. "That is my full name. I am the daughter of Emilio Velasquez." The name fell like a bomb in the church. Emilio Velasquez was known throughout the country as the Midas of business, a man whose influence and wealth rivaled that of the Montero and Fuentes families combined. His mysterious daughter, who had disappeared from public life years ago, was the subject of numerous rumors and speculations. Sophia, recovering from the initial shock, narrowed her eyes suspiciously. "You're lying. It's impossible for Emilio Velasquez's daughter to be a simple nun." "I'm not lying, Mrs. Montero," replied Sister Maria calmly. "5 years ago, I chose to dedicate my life to God and to help others. My father respected my decision, though the outside world never knew the truth." Alejandro, who had been listening to the conversation, approached with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "If you are who you say you are, why reveal your identity now? What do you gain from this?" Sister Maria looked Alejandro directly in the eyes. "I seek nothing in return. I only wanted you to understand that appearances can be deceiving and that a person's worth is not measured by wealth or social position." Despite the revelation, Sophia refused to believe Sister Maria's words. With renewed disdain, she snapped, "This is ridiculous. I won't allow an impostor to tarnish our family's name. Guards, escort this woman out of the church and make sure she never bothers us again." 2 burly men approached Sister Maria, ready to forcibly remove her. However, a commanding voice rang out from the entrance of the church. "Stop immediately." Everyone turned to see a tall and distinguished man advancing down the central aisle. It was Emilio Velasquez himself, his imposing presence filling the space. "Father," whispered Sister Maria, a mixture of surprise and relief in her voice. Emilio approached his daughter and embraced her tenderly before confronting the Montero family. "Sophia, Alejandro, I am deeply disappointed by how you've treated my daughter. Gabriela has always been and will always be my greatest pride, no matter the path she's chosen in life." Sophia, realizing the magnitude of her error, attempted to backtrack. "Emilio, dear friend, there has been a terrible misunderstanding. Of course, we had no idea this charming young woman was your daughter. Please, allow us to apologize." But Emilio raised a hand, silencing her. "Apologies are not enough, Sophia. I've witnessed how you've treated my daughter, not just today, but throughout her time serving in this church. Your behavior is unacceptable." Alejandro, seeing how the situation was spiraling out of control, tried to intervene. "Mr. Velasquez, I assure you this is just a misunderstanding. Our families have done business together for years. Surely we can resolve this amicably." Emilio looked at Alejandro coldly. "Business and friendship are 2 different things, young Montero, and you've shown yourselves unworthy of either." Turning to his daughter, Emilio asked gently, "Gabriela, are you okay? Do you want to press charges for their treatment?" Sister Maria shook her head. "No, Father. As I've told you many times, I've chosen a path of forgiveness and understanding, but I do believe it's time for me to leave this parish. There are many other places where I can serve God and those in need." Emilio nodded with pride. "As always, your heart is larger than all of ours combined. Let's go." I'll take you to the convent to collect your things." As Sister Maria and her father prepared to leave, Valentina Fuentes, who had been silently observing the entire scene, approached them. "Sister Maria," she said in a trembling voice, "I want to thank you for having the courage to speak up and for helping me find my own courage today. I don't know what I would have done without you." Sister Maria smiled warmly. "The courage was yours, Valentina. Never doubt that the strength to follow your heart is within you." As they left the cathedral, Sister Maria felt a great weight lift from her shoulders. Though she was uncertain what the future held, she was ready to embrace it with faith and hope. As Alejandro felt control slipping away, he tried to intervene. "Mr. Fuentes, please, don't make any hasty decisions. Think of all the years our families have worked together," he pleaded. "That's precisely why it pains me to see what you've become," Raul responded sadly. "You've lost sight of what truly matters: integrity, compassion, and respect for others. My daughter had the courage to follow her heart today, and I'm proud of her for that. Maybe it's time I also make some difficult decisions. Remember, Valentina, the path of service and compassion isn't always easy, but it's infinitely rewarding. If you really want to explore this path, I'll be happy to help in any way I can," Sister Maria said. Valentina hugged her tightly. "Thank you for everything. I promise I'll make good use of this second chance." As Sister Maria and her father prepared to leave the church, they found themselves face to face with the Montero family. For a moment, silence filled the space between them, loaded with unspoken emotions and belated regrets. Finally, it was Sophia who spoke, her voice devoid of her usual arrogance. "Sister Maria Gabriela, we." The words seemed to stick in her throat. Sister Maria looked at her with compassion. "Mrs. Montero, words aren't necessary right now. Sometimes silence gives us the opportunity to reflect and grow. I wish you all the best." With these words, Sister Maria and Emilio left the church, leaving behind an atmosphere of introspection and imminent change. In the days and weeks that followed, the events of that fateful wedding had repercussions that extended far beyond the families directly involved. As Emilio Velasquez had announced, he cut all business ties with the Monteros. The news quickly spread through business circles, and soon other partners and clients began to distance themselves from the once powerful Montero empire. Raul Fuentes, true to his word, also decided to end his association with the Monteros, but he went further. Inspired by Sister Maria's example and his daughter's bravery, he began to shift his business focus towards more ethical and sustainable projects. Valentina, on her part, embarked on a journey of self-discovery. She began volunteering with various charitable organizations, finding a satisfaction she had never experienced before in her life of luxury and privilege. Meanwhile, Sister Maria returned to her life of service, now in a different convent far from the opulence and intrigues of high society. Her story, however, became an urban legend, a reminder that true nobility doesn't come from money or status but from actions and the heart. The Monteros, stripped of much of their influence and wealth, were forced to reevaluate their lives and priorities. Alejandro, in particular, underwent a period of deep introspection. The public humiliation and loss of his status led him to question everything he had once believed was important. One day, several months after the failed wedding, Alejandro found himself at the doors of the convent where Sister Maria now resided. With his heart racing and his hands trembling, he asked to speak with her. When Sister Maria appeared, Alejandro could hardly contain his surprise. Despite her simple habit and lack of makeup, she radiated a beauty and serenity he had never noticed before. "Sister Maria," Alejandro began, his voice laden with emotion, "I've come to ask for your forgiveness, not just for how I treated you that day, but for a lifetime of arrogance and contempt toward others. Your actions, your strength, have made me realize how empty my existence has been until now." Sister Maria listened attentively, her face reflecting a mix of compassion and caution. "Alejandro, remorse is the first step towards change, but words must be accompanied by actions. What do you plan to do to make amends for your mistakes?" Alejandro took a deep breath before responding. "I've been thinking about it. I want to use what remains of my family's fortune to do good. I've been researching community development projects and education programs for underprivileged children. I want to make a real difference in people's lives." A small smile appeared on Sister Maria's lips. "Those are noble intentions, Alejandro. But remember, the path to redemption isn't easy or quick. It will require patience, humility, and a constant commitment." "I know," Alejandro nodded, "and I'm prepared for it. For the first time in my life, I feel like I have a real, good purpose. I was wondering if you would be willing to guide me on this new path." Sister Maria looked at him thoughtfully for a moment before responding. "Alejandro, I can't be your personal guide on this journey. Each person must find their own path to redemption. However, I can offer you advice and support when you need it. And perhaps, over time, we can work together on projects that benefit the community." Alejandro nodded, a mix of gratitude and determination in his eyes. "Thank you, Sister Maria. It's more than I deserve. I promise I won't disappoint you." As Alejandro walked away from the convent, he felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. For the first time in his life, he saw a future full of possibilities and purpose. In the years that followed, the city of San Miguel experienced significant changes. The once mighty Montero Empire transformed into a foundation dedicated to social and educational projects. Alejandro, working tirelessly to redeem his family's name, became a respected figure in philanthropic circles. Valentina Fuentes, inspired by Sister Maria's example, established a non-profit organization dedicated to empowering young women from disadvantaged communities. Her work took her across the country, sharing her story and motivating others to find their true calling. Raul Fuentes, for his part, became a leader in the field of ethical and sustainable business. His example inspired other magnates to reconsider their business practices, generating a gradual but significant change in the business culture of the city. Emilio Velasquez, proud of the impact his daughter had had on so many lives, decided to establish a foundation in her name. The Gabriela Velasquez Foundation was dedicated to promoting education and community service, quickly becoming one of the most respected charitable organizations in the country. As for Sister Maria, in the convent, unaware of the fame and recognition her story had generated, for her, the true reward was in the small acts of kindness and compassion she could perform every day. One day, several years after that fateful wedding, Sister Maria received an unexpected visit. Sofia Montero, visibly aged and humbled by the events of the past few years, appeared at the convent. "Gabriela, Sister Maria," Sofia began, her voice trembling slightly, "I've come to ask for your forgiveness. It's taken me a long time to understand the magnitude of my errors and the cruelty of my actions." Sister Maria looked at her with compassion. "Mrs. Montero, forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves as much as to others. I'm glad you found the courage to seek it." Sofia, with tears in her eyes, continued, "I've seen how your example has changed not just my son, but our entire community. It's made me realize how wrong I was about so many things. I'd like to know if there's anything I can do to make amends for my mistakes." Sister Maria took Sofia's hands in hers. "It's never too late to change, Mrs. Montero. True remorse is demonstrated through actions. Perhaps joining some of the community projects your son has started is the best way to redemption, by helping others find theirs." Sofia nodded, a small smile of gratitude lighting up her tired face. "Thank you, Sister Maria. Your kindness and wisdom are truly inspiring. I promise I'll do everything I can to be worthy of this forgiveness." As Sofia walked away, Maria reflected on the incredible journey her life had been. From privileged daughter to humble nun, from an anonymous figure to a catalyst for change. Every step, every challenge, had led her to this moment. In the silence of the convent, Sister Maria offered a prayer of gratitude for the lives she had touched, for the lessons learned, and for the opportunity to be an instrument of love and compassion in a world that needed it so much. And so, in a city transformed by the power of forgiveness and redemption, the story that began with a failed wedding continued to be written in the hearts and actions of all those whose lives had been touched by a humble nun named Gabriela Emilia Velasquez.